Hello, my friends. It looks like we'll be following these news stories for a long time to come. Today, it became absolutely clear that Trump's tactic hasn't worked. After Lavrov's statement yesterday, everyone finally opened their eyes. Now it's obvious there will be no direct negotiations between Putin and Zelensky. Putin is too afraid to leave his bunker and talk to Zelensky. Putin hasn't agreed to a meeting with Zelensky. A Zelensky-Putin summit requires thorough preparation and must take place only at the end of negotiations as their final point, said Sergei Lavrov.
As I've already said, we are ready for any formats, but when it comes to high-level meetings, the most thorough preparation at all preliminary stages is required.
And if you think Trump will now impose sanctions, of course not. He'll just be very concerned that he hasn't managed to achieve anything and wasted 6 months. Meanwhile, the war keeps escalating. Today, Russian Shaheds are even flying into Polish territory. Everyone is alarmed by what's happening. Here is how the Poles are commenting on the situation. Once again, we are dealing with a provocation from the Russian Federation, said Deputy Prime Minister Vladislav Kosiniak-Kamysh at a press conference. He stressed that the object that violated Polish airspace was Russian. So the war is expanding. Russia has grown bolder and is now testing what the reaction will be to strikes on Poland. They know that Trump either cannot or doesn't want to do anything. And today, even Medvedev lashed out with another furious message, this time aimed at Macron, attacking the idea of NATO troops entering Ukraine. The brainless Gallic rooster cannot let go of the thought of sending troops to Ukraine. It has been clearly stated no NATO troops as peacekeepers. Russia will not accept such a so called security guarantee. But this hoarse, pathetic bird keeps crowing, pretending to be the king of the chicken coop. So, Russia keeps pouring its anger on every country while continuing the war, and the situation on the front is deteriorating quickly because the Russians broke through the line in the Dobropillia direction. The front has also started collapsing in the Kostiantynivka sector. The Russians still outnumber Ukrainian forces and maintain relentless activity. As a result, they've advanced significantly near Kostiantynivka. Only about 2.5 kilometers remain to the city's outskirts. This means that battles for the each of the city could begin very soon. Meanwhile, Russian sources are already claiming they've reached the eastern outskirts of Kostiantynivka, though the Ukrainian side hasn't confirmed this. For now, we'll have to wait for updates. But it's clear the situation here is rapidly worsening, and holding the defense is becoming extremely difficult. On the Dobropillia front, Ukrainian forces managed to push Russians back from Kucherov Yar, but for now there are no further changes along the line. However, Russian troops continue assaults on Volodymyrivka, Pankivka, and Nikhanorivka. Regarding Pankivka, Russia's Ministry of Defense has already claimed full control, and Ukrainian soldiers on the ground are confirming this information. We are waiting for an official statement from the general staff, but it seems the front line here may soon shift, and not in Ukraine's favor. On the Pokrovsk front, Russian forces are storming Rodinske and Krasny Lyman, breaking through around Novoekonomichne and pushing toward Promень, Lysivka, Udachne, and Zvirove. The situation here is also on the edge of catastrophe. Russians are already entering Rodinsk with fighting inside the city and heavy clashes ongoing in Krasny Liman. These are the last defensive lines. If they fall, Russian forces could fully encircle Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. That would mean a massive cauldron is imminent. On the Novopavlivka front, Russian forces are pushing near the village of Horikhove and across the fields by Zelený Kut. Heavy fighting also continues for Zelený High, Alexandrograd, and the outskirts of Voskresenka. This situation remains extremely tense, but in the past 24 hours there have been no changes along the front line. On the Velyka Novosilka front, after another breakthrough, Russian troops managed to create a semi-encirclement of Temirivka and Komoshovacha. Battles are now raging for these two villages. Russian forces have already established positions inside Dnipropetrovsk region, which means new attacks on nearby villages may begin soon. On the Huliaipole front, Russian forces haven't launched any new assaults, and the situation has remained unchanged over the past 24 hours. On the Zaporizhzhia front, no new attacks have been recorded either, though Russian troops are pulling in fresh reserves. Meanwhile, shelling continues at the usual intensity. On the Kherson front, Russian forces are maintaining high activity, attempting daily advances on the islands and near the Antonivsky Bridge. However, so far, the Ukrainian forces have managed to repel all their movements, and the front line remains unchanged. Now, moving to the Siversk direction. Here, Russian troops are attempting breakthroughs toward Yampil, near Grigorivka, and resulting Pereizne and Fedorivka. Still, the activity is not at its peak, just a few assaults over the past 24 hours, and Russia has achieved no success. In the Leman direction, the situation has significantly worsened. Russian forces managed to capture three villages at once and advanced beyond them across the fields. This now poses a serious threat both to Leman and to the settlement of Drobosheva. For the moment, the Russians continue their assaults in the fields, attempting to push further. In the Borova direction, Russian troops are assaulting Boguslavka. Aside from this, no major activity has been recorded, and the front line here remains stable. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian forces continue their assaults on Tyshenkivka and Petropavlivka while also pushing forward from Stepova Novoselivka. Over the past day, no territorial changes have been recorded, but the attacks are ongoing. In the Dvorichna direction, the Russians are attempting to break through near the village of Kolodezne, but have had no success as Ukrainian forces continue to repel and destroy them in the fields. In the Velykyi Burluk direction, Russian forces haven't launched new assaults, and the front line here remains unchanged. Shelling activity is minimal. In the Kharkiv direction, no new offensives have been reported, and the situation along the front line is stable. Meanwhile, fighting continues in Vovchansk, but Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks, keeping the situation without changes. In the Sumy direction, Russian forces maintain limited activity, attempting to push through near Oleksiivka, Yablonivka, and Yunakivka. However, they have achieved no success, and the front line here remains unchanged. Around the village of Tyotkina, the situation is stable, with no new attempts by Russian troops to cross the border. Meanwhile, in the United States, officials have finally begun to realize the sheer scale of the territory Russia is trying to seize.
We didn't talk about territory today, but I guess for an American audience and having studied in the US for many years, the best way to explain it is that if you take the relative landmass of what Russia wants right now from Ukraine, it would be a little bit like you giving up Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, even Virginia, and then bumping into Maryland. So in that sense, we're talking about a substantive amount of territory.
Still, despite understanding the magnitude of Moscow's ambitions, Washington has yet to impose new sanctions against Russia. Friends, what do you think about this? Be sure to share your opinion in the comments. Meanwhile, Ukraine continues striking Russian oil refineries. Last night, another successful attack hit the Novoshakhtinsk refinery in Russia's Rostov region. Local residents reported hearing explosions followed by a fire at the Novoshakhtinsk petroleum products plant. The facility produces fuel oil, marine and diesel fuel, and straight-run gasoline, supplying the Russian armed forces. This is intensifying Russia's fuel crisis.
Trucks are stuck. There's no diesel or gasoline. Refueling is impossible. I don't know how we'll get by or what will happen next, and no one is doing anything about it.
At the same time, Russian forces continue targeting Ukraine's gas infrastructure. Last night strikes were reported in Dnipropetrovsk region. Clearly, Russia shows no intention of stopping the war and seems determined to severely weaken Ukraine before winter. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.